I'm about to get into some work today, but first, I want to go over some jewelry and give you a couple of tips about some things that I found recently so that you'll know what to look for when you're out, or even how to examine your own stuff. Let's do it.
A 1 and a 2 and Rusty the reseller, he'll sell you the shirt off his back. Well, I have done it.
Folks, today we're going to be looking at a few pieces of jewelry here. I'm going to try to give you some tips, some pointers, show you why I bought these, what I think about them, how I'm going to try to sell them, and whatnot. I'm going to have a few different tips and ideas for you. Bear with me. Hopefully, you'll get a few ideas. But we're just going to start off today. These are all pieces that I've picked up locally in the last 6 months, and I just want to talk to you about why I got them and what they are. So right here, a couple of kind of a newer age design here. When I saw these, my first thought was those look to be some sort of artisan or custom type job, but I didn't know, there's this yellowish color on the top and sort of a tarnished silvery color on the side. When I flipped them over, this is what I saw. Etched in there, it says Sterling MA, as you can see that on both of those. So my suspicions were verified. This was something made by an artist or some sort of a jewelry maker. And on the back, what they've done, instead of using a stamp, which would be a little metal piece that they would tap or do something to stamp the actual metal, what they did was they took this, if you hold them in their hand, they look like a fat pin, but basically you turn them on, they got a motor, and they got these little tips, and they can actually write. It's kind of like they etch in writing on here. And so what they've done is they've identified that this is sterling silver, that's the metal, and MA must be the initials of the artisan. Each one of these small pieces, folks, I picked up for anywhere between $1 and $2, and an artistic piece like that that has a maker's mark on it, I'll pay $2 for just about any day of the week. Next up, we have this little brooch. It's obviously the letter B. It's a pin, okay? But if you look very closely, and I'm going to see how we're going to do this here, if this will work. Let me pull this up close. Maybe you can see, and I got it upside down, of course. But what you're looking at here is, it says Trifari. I don't know if I'm pulling that up very well. Trifari, maybe we can look at it this direction, and that'll be a little bit better for you. There we go. There it is, Trifari, Trifari. That's a good brand. They made really nice costume jewelry a few decades back. There's a variety of different styles. Some involve gemstones, some do not, or rhinestones. This is just kind of an etched look, the letter B. I've come across letter A before. My guess is maybe they have every letter. I don't know. But Trifari sells really well. A lot of people like that brand. Next up, I'm just going to show you a couple of pieces here, again, that we're selling for really cheap. And people didn't know what they were. And so what we have is just a few different, I've just pulled out individual earrings here for you to take a look at. But this one right here, it's more of a gold tone on the outside. Let's see if I can zoom in on that better. We've got kind of like these little bumps around here, just giving it some texture or something for the light to bounce off of. And so we look, and then a darkish purple colored stone in here. When I flip it over, first thing I notice is the back is open. That's a good sign that this is probably, the second sign actually, that this is probably a genuine gemstone. The first sign is that they have prong settings that are quite durable. I can't pry it with my fingernail, which means the maker wanted to make sure that they held that stone in tightly so it didn't fall out. And they usually do that with stuff that is valuable. Upon closer inspection, inside of here, above the stone, right in here, it has some stamps. One stamp, the first stamp says 925, and then it says China. Stuff that says China on it usually is lower quality, but the fact that it has a mark of the actual metal content, and the fact that I'm pretty confident that this is a genuine stone for $2, a pair of amethyst earrings made out of sterling silver, I'll easily make my money back on that. Next up, we have this little earring. Again, very dark kind of silvery color, kind of grayed out. But the stones here are pretty bright, which tells me it's probably open backed. In the middle here you have what looks kind of like a moonstone. And sure enough, there's an opening in all of those spots. So what we're looking at here, this is likely citrine, and this is likely amethyst, just based on the color. And this is likely a moonstone. A lot of cheaper jewelry have, you know, pieces that are fake to make it look like it. But let's see if I can zoom in on this, and you'll see the marking here on the back, right here. 925. So folks, again, we've said in all of our videos, always, always, always investigate both sides of a piece of jewelry. You're going to get actually more information from the piece on the back than on the front. On the front, you really want to see, are there stones? Is it an attractive piece? Are they prong set or durably set in there to not fall out? On the back, you're looking for metal content and maker's marks. Lastly, up here in this little section, what looks like a silver tone thing, and you've got sort of like a more of a crimped or a bezel here that's been pressed over to hold that stone in place. It's definitely a silver color, silver tone, but in this case, there is no marking. So either this, again, looks to me like this has been made by an artisan, just based on the design and the look. I believe this is a genuine piece of turquoise in here. They did not mark the actual metal content on here, although it has all the telltale signs that it is sterling silver. It's possible that the backing on this would have indicated 925. I've got the other one too. I'll find some backings put on there. It's a nice little southwestern motif. A couple more pieces that I'll show you, which I was able to find maker's marks, and that's why I bought it. You got this nice bright necklace here. I've seen necklaces like this made of gold, made of silver, and the cheapest metal you can think of, all with it, you know, just kind of at a glance would look basically the same. But if what we do is we go to the clasp section, and this is kind of a weird a duck. This is a strange cat. So you have a clasp here, right? A kind of a claw clasp. Then you have this section, which is a magnet, actually. It can open up and shut. That has its own claw connected to the other part of the necklace. Now, this necklace originally would have only been this claw and this part here that it would have fastened to, just like this, these two pieces. And I'll tell you why. On this claw, I don't see any, well, that's not true. I do see a mark right here. On the claw itself, right there, 925. So this piece is silver. If I move on over to the chain itself, right here, there's a stamp that says 925, and if I flip it over, this stamp says Italy. There's a lot of sterling silver jewelry coming that was manufactured in Italy. Okay, well, let's say the same thing on the other side. Flip her over, 925 right by my thumbnail. So what has likely happened was someone had this necklace. They liked it, but it was a little bit too short. And so they had another piece. It could be, we did identify that this clasp is made of silver. However, looking at this claw, so this claw here is made of silver. That was original to the necklace. But this piece and this magnet here that they've used to extend the size or the length of this is not made of silver. It's really just a functional portion of the necklace. But this was $2, folks. It was hanging with a bunch of other cheap stuff. It's worth probably $60 to $70 just in scrap silver weight. So I was happy to pick that up. This puppy I just got today, folks. I mean, just a couple of hours ago, I bought this at an estate sale. It was priced at $15. And what you're looking at here, folks, is an antique inkwell. This is made of lead crystal, not unlike how a lot of decanters would have been made. It's quite heavy. That's one of the telltale reasons that I know it's made of that. The time period, knowing what they used. And then you got this beautiful lid here that opens and shuts. $15. You got this beautiful scroll work. You've got, it's monogrammed with letters S-A-S, SAS. Now, if you do a little bit of examination on the inside, you can see kind of this lighter hue of the metal than it is on the outside. This is definitely darkened. And by all accounts, this has all the telltale signs of the darkness inside here of how silver, sterling silver tarnishes. And so what I do is I inspect around the rim, down here where it's attached to the crystal, and up along the edge. It didn't take me long, folks, so do this with me. If we look and we just sort of start spinning, Go spin. Again, this is not like a necklace, but the same rules apply. Look at the latch or the clasp. Directly underneath of this clasp, you'll see it says sterling. Okay, so this is a sterling silver top, not terribly heavy. It's quite thin on the inside in this piece. The overall piece is quite heavy, but for $15, this is a slam dunk. These are selling, $75 to $125 on eBay all day long. I'll definitely make my money back on that and some. The following pieces I want to talk about are all pieces that are not marked with a maker or the type of metal. But because I work with jewelry quite often, I'm pretty confident that I know what I have here. And I also am including this portion just to tell you that if your piece of jewelry does not have a mark of the metal content and it does not have a maker's name, it does not mean that it is not valuable or cannot bring values if you want to resell things. Here are a few pieces that I've bought for $2 each locally, which will easily be able to be sold for a profit. And they're all using about the same types of materials. This particular material is a combination of copper and some other materials like zinc or like a little bit of tin possibly. This is just an old brooch. It has a very old style clasp. It's just a piece of metal that this kind of hook into or not. And it's really pretty. It's actually enamel painted, so you can see the design here. It's nice open, it goes through in parts of it, but you've got this flower. It's very simple. It's a rose. You can see a little bit of white paint on the edges, and this is a very kind of beautiful sort of Art Nouveau-ish style, so we're looking at very late 1800s to very early 1900s for that time period. Here's another one that is very Art Nouveau Victorian-esque. Here you've got the woman with the big hair, kind of. This is sort of, you're familiar with a lot of artists like Gibson and some of those. This is the style of woman that they did paintings and sketches and things of. It was sort of like this symbol of beauty at the time, a woman that looked like this. And you've got the scroll work all around here in the back. Again, this is a brooch, that very old basic portion to hold on to it once it's pinned in. You're seeing a variety of colors here. What this was at one time was entirely silver in color. I believe that this is silver coated over, it looks like, copper, basically. It's hollow on the inside, but just because of how it was poured, you've basically got this outer portion that was made into a mold, and then it was soldered. You can see this line here soldered, the back was soldered onto it. So it's hollow inside. They made it silver to make it look more beautiful, to hide the fact that it's copper, but over time it has worn. But this is still a very popular type of item. People collect this type of thing. Here you have another brooch, very kind of a dingy, grimy, kind of goldish color. You've got marcasite pieces on the front here in the petals and each of the middle of these. If you flip it over, much more of a vibrant color. That's a beautiful little color on the back there, not as aged looking. You have a little bit of a newer style of the clasp here. It's missing the little ring that goes around in it to hold it actually in place. So it has a little bit of damage, but what we're looking at here is something that is gold filled and or gold plated over a cheaper like copper or brass. And brass and copper both were quite popular in jewelry in the 1800s and even in the beginning of the 1900s because it was a gold color. It resembled gold, but it was a cheaper metal, easy to produce. Here another very old style, early 1900s, late 1800s brooch. Again, very thin. You can see that it's indented there. This was just, cast into like a mold. Again, it's possible that once I polish this up entirely, it will reveal a small stamp someplace. But this is sterling silver, believe it or not. It's got all this dark tarnish on it. It looks quite ugly. It even has some yellowish, which to the naked eye might appear as though it's like this, where it is silver that is coming off of copper on the other side. But actually, folks, this yellowish color is just the color of the tarnish in this case. It's a thin piece of silver. If you were to polish this up, it would shine bright, that silver color. And the fact that it's such a thin piece tells me that it is a single type of metal. It is not, layers of metal over something else. 3 more pieces that are bangle, like bracelets, or what they would call bangles. This is some sort of a knot type design, very kind of complicated, but kind of neat as well. This, you can see here where I have begun to polish. Not fully, but I've just begun. Look how much lighter in color that is, and there's still some of that residue on there. It's not been finished. It's just started to polish. I did that just to kind of double check. This is sterling silver as well. Again, I might find a stamp someplace, but based on the weight of it, based on how thin it is, based on how it polishes so well, I'm fairly confident that this is sterling silver. And honestly, I started to polish, but I kind of like the way it looks here. You've got that dark contrast on the inside. I like that look. $2, very easy purchase for me. Then you've got this older style bangle. You can see the beautiful kind of design work here with the flowers. Then you've got, again, this monogram, the monogram letters. This kind of screams late 1800s, early 1900s. Looks like ABA here. So you've got sort of on either side, you've got a mirror image design. This particular clasp, you push in, and then it opens up. All right, so you've got this little hinge here that when that pushes in, it opens or shuts. It connects right here. Right here, we've got what says SB Company, SB Co. This, what you're looking at right here, the underside is that coppery or brass color. This is what the base metal really is. You can see it's much shinier and much brighter on the outside. That's because this is gold plated. So you've got a gold plated bangle, and it still has much of that plating on it. Quite nice, $2. Somebody was like, well, it's old, it's out of style. It does not mean it doesn't have value. And then this one, I think I like even more. There's just a whole lot going on here. Very Victorian era, the scroll work. You've got this piece right here on the top, these pieces here, which you can see that I can put this all the way underside of here. This portion had been soldered on top, like one here, another one on top of that, and then the one below over here as well. Definitely got some wear, got some changing in color. Definitely a golder color under here, brighter than out here. And so what you have, again, is a gold-filled bracelet. I don't believe that this is made of silver. I think that this is some other cheaper metal. You can see this color underneath here, but you can see where the gold has over time faded from use, from being on someone's arm and just time. This is probably over 100 years old. You've also got this chain here that's holding it together. It's a nice little piece. It's still in really decent condition, aside from the fact that you kind of got this two-tone color looking going on here. One more I wanted to show you before I moved on. Another piece. This is not an actual gemstone. This is what they would just call a rhinestone. So it's something synthetic. But it, again, has kind of a dingy kind of color. And this is just copper, folks. This is a copper brooch. There are people who collect just copper jewelry. It was very popular earlier on when you couldn't get a hold of more valuable metals, or you wanted to sell it for a lower price to have more potential customers. They used some of these other less valuable metals, but you can still see that you can make a beautiful piece out of this. This particular piece looks to me like it has had a new pin, and by new, it's not new, it's still decades old, but this, I don't think this pin came with this originally. I think that it was newer and it was soldered on when the old one probably fell off. And you'll see that at times. The functional pieces of jewelry are sometimes fixed or repaired. Somebody thought it was beautiful, or maybe had a sentimental value. They still wanted to wear it. And so anyhow, keep a lookout for this kind of stuff, guys. It definitely is a throwback design, and that's one of the first telltale signs that it's older. All right, more pieces. I picked all 3 of these up yesterday for $2 a piece. So $6 in on all this. What you have here is a design that has flowers on the inside of a horseshoe. If you know much about your history, there was definitely a good period of time where there was a lot of superstition represented in the media and in jewelry, and even on postcards, things like that. A horseshoe is one of those. The sign of, it's superstitious for good luck. You've got these blue stones, quite bright and beautiful. A nice looking piece. The composition is quite good. And then if you look down here at the bottom, you're going to see Coro, Coro. This is not one of the best pieces that I've ever seen of theirs. In fact, the back is kind of grimy and just sort of dingy, frankly. So it's not the best design piece I've ever seen by them, but Coro does hold some good values. You can definitely sell that for probably $20, maybe something like that, maybe more. This right here, though similar in appearance, actually is gold-filled, and it does not have the marking on it, but I can just tell by looking at it. The color tone between this portion here, okay, and then this ring and this piece here is it's difficult to tell, and there's definitely some design work and some etch here, but it's beautiful. This portion and this portion are just some sort of a brass type metal. And then this ring here is the portion that I think is primarily a gold-filled piece, this ring. It's a slightly different color, and this might have some gold, plate on the outside of it. But it's a pretty piece. It's definitely older. Still has that kind of rivet design right here in the middle, so that this can spin. It can rotate and move. It's a beautiful little piece. Not a real stone, I don't believe. It does have a prong setting, but it's quite superficial. And it's very grainy. Very grainy underneath of that. If that was a real stone, the light was passing through it, either that would be a very, very poor quality stone, or it's fake. And in this case, what you have is someone has painted the back of this stone to make it reflect a particular type of color. It's like a foil, either a gold foil or a silver foil, so when the light hits that, it bounces off it, reflects off of that like a mirror, and comes right back out at you. Because this is a cheap stone, the desired effect is not really coming out perfectly, but it does have color and does attract the eye nonetheless. Then this piece, which I think is the best piece, it's the best constructed piece. It's probably got more precious metal in it. This is definitely a piece that I believe is gold filled, and it has a name right here. It says on this, it says Diana. Now, I do believe this is probably a Diana piece. It's always possible that people have soldered something onto another piece. But on the front, you've got this stone that is very well set. It is set in a way that fine jewelry is set. You've got these, they make molds for these in all types of metals, silver and gold, molds like this. And so what you do is you just take the size of a stone that would fit in the size mold, and when you're soldering this, you make this mold, make this piece, then you put this in there, and then you work a tool all the way around, sort of the crest of this stone to hold it in place. That is rigid. That is not popping out. It's open in the back, which tells me it's a real stone. It's light enough in color, it really looks like an aquamarine, but aquamarines are quite a bit more valuable than topaz. Topazes, they're beautiful, but they do not command the same prices. So I'm going to assume that this is probably a very pale colored topaz. It could be another light blue stone, but when you're looking at blue stones, 10 times, you're either talking about a topaz or an aquamarine. Beautiful 2 gold tone. This is a lighter gold color than this. Is a little bit of that, kind of get into like a pinkish or an orangish gold tone, but it's a beautiful piece. $2. This is probably a $20 to $40 piece, depending. Last up today, folks, I want to talk about a few items, and just to hit home the idea that you need to inspect everything and just to know certain things that might have precious metals in them. Here is a pair of scissors. It says Toledo on it right here. I believe that these are Spanish, made in Spain. Cool design, but they're heavily worn. So this is, I paid in a bag a lot of other things too. I think I paid $12 for the whole bag. This pair of scissors probably sell between $15 and $20 in the condition that they're in. This is not gold, folks, but scissors, a lot of scissors, especially vintage ones, did have silver and gold content. Either they were entirely made out of those metals or they were plated. So if you see an old pair of scissors that has a gold tone like this, you should definitely do some inspection on that. Here's another point. This is like a little person inside. You've got this old sewing kit, kind of. This says silver-eyed sharps, Germany. So we got some silver-eyed needles in here. You've got another small, tiny little pair of sewing fabric scissors here, and they say made in Germany, all right? And this is a cool little piece. I don't know how much this will sell for, maybe 15, 20. What do we got down here? I didn't even see that. I had not even looked at this, folks. What do we got here? This is like case in point here. Okay, so they look like maybe they're just really old pins, but shoot, look at this thing. This thing looks like it could have had gold content on it. It's so glittery. That's beautiful. Huh. I'm going to try to polish that up. You never know what you're going to find, folks. That's so funny. Okay, well, the point I was trying to make here, guys, was just that I guess the point now is always heavily inspect what you got. I just got this today, so I hadn't had a chance to look through it. I will now. But always look, this, scissors. I found scissors like this before that are made out of silver. I found pouches like this, that this rim is made out of sterling silver. So you always want to look around the hinges in here. Usually when it's marked on an inside area, like inside of here or something, so that it's not out where other people are seeing it. But you should definitely keep a look. I'm just looking, folks, because I haven't actually looked at this yet. I pulled it out just to talk about it. I don't think it is, but keep a lookout for that stuff. Anything that's old, folks, jewelry, other stuff, functional things, check out the metal, inspect it, because it might have some sort of gold or silver content like this one. This is an old leather pouch, and inside of this old pouch is an old pack of cigarettes. Believe it or not, I'm going to pull this out so you can see it. Old Chesterfield cigarettes. And yeah, they've never been opened. They still got the seal on them, which is really cool. 20 cigarettes, it says. I'll slide back down in here. But what you see in this is a patent applied for. Right here it says real ostrich. That's why these little bumps are here, guys. Anytime you see a leather with this kind of look and design, this is ostrich leather. And it was made in England. I noticed that there's metal up here that's gold color. Sure. And then down here another piece. But if you look even closer, where it has initials, CAP, below that it says 1/10, 14K. So this little metal medallion and these metal pieces are all 1/10 of that metal content is 14 karat gold. A lot of people would not even think to look at that, but that definitely adds value. Anytime you can say, hey, this thing has gold in it, people perk up. So always keep an eye out for that stuff. Last up today, folks, and we have a video on this a long time back where I go into more detail about it, but I'll just talk about it. Always inspect, and just because something isn't made of silver or gold doesn't mean it doesn't have value. I bought a lot of jewelry last year at Goodwill locally, back when they were selling bags for $25. They're not doing that anymore, unfortunately. I did really well on buying stuff and selling it, but when I got this, I opened it up and I pulled this thing out and I started to inspect, and I could tell right away that it was quite old. You have this fabric in here. You've got what looks to be like a silver tone in here, and there's all kinds. You're not going to be able to see it in this video, most likely. And it's probably more on the other side, but there's all kinds of spots where different people who had serviced this, worked on it, tuned it up, had scrolled numbers and things in. And let's see if any of that bleeds through here. If you can see, you can kind of see that a little bit here. And as I turn it, you're going to see numbers all over this sucker where people had worked on it, made notes for themselves to help them in setting the time. This is a ceramic plate here, the face, with Roman numeral numbers. And if I go on in to open this up fully, where was is it right here? Yes, it is. And I pull this puppy open. Just look how incredible the inside of this thing looks. Not only is it incredibly complicated and very old, but you have these very large gemstones of different colors all around here. Green, blue, these pink. I do not know if these are genuine. Well, that one's kind of loose in there, you can see. I did research on this, folks. This thing is from the 1700s. I bought it in a bag for $25. I sold all the jewelry, made money on the $25. This essentially is free to me. But I would not have known how intricate. I would not have known that there were gemstones in here if I just looked at the outside and didn't find any numbers or any marks. I'd be like, well, it's not silver. It looks old, but, you know, we'll just see what I can get for it. No, no, no. All right, you always need to inspect. You can see that this has this little metal piece here that helps wind it has come out. It's loose. It's definitely not in working order. In order to get something from the 1700s to work would cost quite a bit of money, and I'm not willing to do that at this time, but it's a beautiful piece. And it is for sale, but I've not sold it yet because I'm asking what it's worth, and it's just going to take a while. There is a buyer out there who's going to get it at some point. But you need to inspect your items. Okay, inspect them heavily before you put them up for sale. And let me give you one more tip before I leave you today. Tip of the day, folks. If you're going on eBay to look for price comparisons for the item that you're trying to sell, make sure you look at sold items and don't just look at the first sold item. Go through as many as you can and look at what they actually sold for. A lot of times people will throw things up at auction at weird times, like Tuesday at 8 a.m. or Thursday at 9:30 in the morning, or Thursday night at like 2 a.m. Times when people are not really watching. And sometimes people will be able to find good deals and buy things well below value because the person selling it just didn't know that they should time it better, or they didn't know the value. Just because you see that something's sold real cheaply doesn't mean that that's the actual value of it. You need to take as much information in as possible to determine what it should sell for. Now, the general rule of thumb is if you want to sell something fast, look at what the cheapest prices are going for and price it about that or slightly under it. But if you're okay waiting a little bit, look at all of those sales. I look at the ones that sold for around above halfway, around the highest. And I'll price mine around that at buy it now, accepting offers, because someone eventually will take interest. I can send them an offer or they'll send me an offer. Then if they accept, I've still sold it for more than the average one sells for, and they felt like they got a deal. And so it's a good experience for everybody. Hope that helps, folks. Take care.
Beep boop boop. Let's go make some money. Rusty hair.